Welcome to another episode of Wham Bam Dashcam, the best dashcam show on this planet or any other. Maybe someday we'll start getting submissions from Mars, but until then, enjoy these 20 earthly dashcam videos. Today's first video comes to us from Paul in California, and while it may seem unremarkable at first, keep watching because this highway collision was captured from multiple angles and you'll only see them here. Paul was headed south on I-5 when he watched an SUV driver pit maneuver themselves off the front of a semi-truck before spinning off the highway. Paul called 911 and reported the collision, then contacted the trucking company to provide them with his dashcam footage. The company then gave him a copy of their own footage, along with permission to share it with us. The trucker's perspective reveals that the Buick SUV actually slammed head-on into a culvert ditch after leaving the interstate. Ouch! Paul didn't tell us if anyone was injured in this collision, but based on the footage, we're guessing that Buick is down for the count. We absolutely love being able to watch things captured from multiple viewpoints. If you do too, hit that subscribe button, and let's see if we can reach 500,000 subscribers by Christmas. Brandon was driving his Ram 3500 in South Carolina when a minivan suddenly rear-ended him, not once, not twice, but 3 times. After both drivers had come to a stop, the minivan driver fled the scene, but Brandon took off after him. He called 911 and continued pursuing the minivan until highway patrol officers were able to take over. Brandon told us troopers chased the minivan for 12 miles until the driver crashed into a parked vehicle. He was then arrested and charged with driving under the influence. Brandon filed a claim with his own insurance provider, who then got in touch with the other driver's insurance provider to pay for the claim. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured in the collision. Elena was heading home after dropping her son off at school when her Hyundai Palisade began to hydroplane on the wet highway. After losing control, Elena's SUV ended up spinning almost completely around before stopping in the grass median. She told us it was fully covered in grass, so she got a car wash after heading straight to a tire shop. Allie was on her way home from a job interview when a pickup truck ahead of her suddenly lost control and went tumbling down the highway before coming to rest upside down. It's impossible to tell from the footage what caused the sudden loss of control, but the pickup scattered debris all over the interstate before stopping. Allie made sure the occupants were okay before calling 911. She stayed and gave a statement to the first responders. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured in the wreck. This submitter was driving down a Montana highway when he found himself stuck in heavy traffic. When he finally made his way up to the cause of the congestion, what he found was a buzz of activity.
Oh, that's bees. That is bees. Oh, that's bad. That is bad.
A semi pulling a flatbed trailer had toppled onto its side, and the cargo had been scattered all over the left lane of the highway. Thankfully, our submitter had his windows up as he drove by the sticky situation. Man, that's got to sting. It looks like our submitter made a beeline away from the wreckage, happy to no longer be stuck in traffic. Tyler had his own run-in with wildlife when a herd of deer suddenly charged across the road ahead of his Honda CR-V. Thankfully, Tyler was able to avoid any collisions with the deer by slamming on his brakes. He told us that no deer were harmed in the making of this video, but the healing of their emotional wounds might take some time. Layla captured a double collision on her dashcam after highway traffic in the passing lane came to an abrupt stop. First, a minivan driver swerved and struck the median barrier in an attempt to avoid rear-ending an SUV. Then, the driver of a car behind Layla waited too long to brake and rear-ended an SUV that had nearly stopped. That makes 2 drivers who weren't paying enough attention to be driving at highway speeds. Layla told us she discovered the Wham Bam channels after getting a Tesla, then sent us this footage from her Toyota Sienna. She watches our videos with her brothers Ramsey and Malik. What an awesome family pastime. Hamad was waiting patiently at a red light when an oncoming driver decided they were too important to stop, or maybe they just weren't paying attention. Either way, the driver of the SUV behind them was paying attention, and the cop pulled the other driver over for a serving of instant justice. You'll love to see it. In this video, the cop is the one who didn't stop when he should have.
Wow.
Hank Jr. was driving with his father in the passenger seat when they watched a police SUV charge through a stop sign without any lights or siren active before T-boning another SUV. They immediately stopped to check on everyone. Hank Jr. told us the officer seemed shaken up and was very apologetic as he seemed to take responsibility. Thankfully, it doesn't appear like anyone was seriously hurt. Elijah had just changed lanes on his way to get some fast food when a pickup driver pulled out in front of him. Thankfully, Elijah was able to avoid rear-ending the pickup by slamming on his brakes, causing his tires to squeal. After that, he decided to just go home, evidently deciding he'd experienced enough excitement for the day. This submitter watched an SUV driver make a right on red when traffic wasn't clear and run into an oncoming Honda Civic. Our submitter had to swerve hard to avoid being struck by the Honda after the SUV sent it hurtling toward his GMC Acadia. He told us both drivers stopped and waited for the police to respond. Whenever we show a right-on-red collision, our non-American viewers are shocked that such a thing is legal. The important thing to know is that it's only legal after coming to a stop and only if there's an opening in traffic. The vast majority of rights on red are performed safely and they greatly reduce congestion at traffic lights. Even so, I'm looking forward to more intersections being replaced with roundabouts, which are much safer. Speaking of dangerous intersections, Jacob was going through a green light when he spotted a Tesla behaving badly.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Thankfully, after the red Model Y driver ran their red light, Jacob's honking was enough to alert them to their error. When both drivers slammed on their brakes, a collision was avoided before they both drove away. Sam captured video of another driver hydroplaning on a wet highway, but this time they needed more than just a car wash and new tires as a result. The driver of the pickup ahead of Sam lost control before sideswiping an SUV. Incredibly, both drivers were able to avoid colliding with the median barrier. Sam stopped to check on them, and thankfully, nobody was hurt. Leo was driving in Berkeley when a moped rider suddenly emerged from between two cars parked on the street. While Leo slammed on the brakes to avoid obliterating the reckless rider, the guy on the moped just rode off, evidently oblivious to the situation. Eric was waiting at a traffic light while drivers on the left and right sides of the intersection made protected left turns. Watch what happened when the green turn arrows turned yellow. The driver of an SUV tried to race the yellow light, then slammed into the back of a red Honda SUV that had been forced to slow down for traffic. Thankfully, the drivers of both vehicles were able to get out, assess the damage, then move their SUVs off the road. So it's clear nobody was seriously injured by the impact. Eric told us he watches Wham Bam Dashcam and Wham Bam Tesla Cam with his parents while they eat pizza together, and they love the commentary. Chris was on his way to college classes one Friday morning when he encountered a Kia Soul pulling a trailer loaded with furniture, but not loaded very well, it turned out. As the Kia rounded a roundabout, stacking chairs began spilling all over the road, with one nearly striking a car. The rope that was supposed to hold the chairs in the trailer ended up dragging one for a while instead. Thankfully, the Kia owner noticed what was happening and stopped to collect his cargo, but he did not look happy. Thankfully, this hadn't happened on the 55-mile-per-hour highway the Kia was about to get onto. Chris told us he watches Wham Bam Dashcam and Wham Bam Tesla Cam every week with his girlfriend Shayna, and he got his dashcam after being involved in a major collision that nearly totaled his Audi Q5. JJ and his sister were on their way to a restaurant, and JJ was driving his Ford Edge SUV on a road with a 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. Suddenly, another driver made a wide turn into JJ's lane before practically stopping in front of him. JJ told us he slammed on the brakes as hard as he could, but it wasn't enough to avoid rear-ending the Toyota. Then, as JJ was on the phone with 911, the Toyota driver left the scene. JJ's sister had just had hip surgery and was taken to the hospital to get checked out. Thankfully, he was able to get the other driver's insurance provider to cover everything, and he's hopeful his vehicle will be repaired soon. Brandon had just picked up a friend when the driver of a pickup truck turned across the highway in front of him. Thankfully, Brandon was able to react quickly enough to avoid T-boning the pickup truck. He told us we convinced him to get a dashcam just a month before this. If you need one, links to our recommendations are in the description. Mark was driving in Atlanta when he watched a black Toyota get T-boned as it proceeded across an intersection with a green light. An oncoming driver made an unprotected left turn when it wasn't clear to do so, colliding with the Toyota and briefly sending it spinning. Thankfully, first responders in a pickup truck witnessed the collision and went to help. Mark told us he and his wife Adriana have gotten totally hooked on Wham Bam videos. Thanks, you two. We're glad you're satisfied. Jare was headed home from church with his kids one Sunday when they spotted a very strange vehicle coming toward them in the oncoming lane. He told us his kids were really excited to see it and they still wonder what it was. Well, Jare, we asked the members of our Discord server and they figured out it's something called a velomobile. They're powered entirely by the muscles of the human operator inside the aerodynamic body. Who knew, right? If you like seeing the same collision from multiple angles, watch this episode next to see another time we had two different dashcam owners send us footage of the same collision. Or watch this episode to see the time when a dashcam and a Tesla cam captured the same shooting star.
Wham, bam, we got a Patreon man. Please support the show.